Hey Robert, how are you?
Hey, good. How are you, Taavet?
I'm good. I'm excited about this new virtual experience.
And you should be, as the first employee at Skype so many years ago. I'm sure this is getting back to your roots right now.
I know we bloody hell 20 years ago we dreamed of making this possible. We didn't quite get there, but now I think it's hopefully here.
You were ahead of your time.
Yep.
So where are you joining us from?
I am in London and actually my home internet broke down, so I had to hike to the TransferWise office, which is completely deserted. It
Wow,
feels a bit spooky,
give us that quick tour. Okay,
but at least hopefully there's a reliable internet connection here.
excellent. Um, so hey, for everybody who's just joining, I'm Robert Hackett. I am a senior writer at Fortune Magazine, where I write about tech and money and the intersection of the two. And I'm here with Taavet Hinrikus, who is the co-founder and chairman of TransferWise, one of the highest privately valued fintech startups in the world. And he is joining us from TransferWise's office. So, Taavet, one thing I wanted to ask you to start off this conversation, I had mentioned that you were one of the first employees at Skype. Um, Given the way that everybody is moving to virtual conferencing software today, um, what do you make of this new trend? I mean, you were onto this very, very early, but it's now only coming to fruition.
I think it's actually quite exciting. And I'm pretty hopeful that when we get back to normal, whatever normal looks like, we will not forget the good things we learned from the crisis. Like there is a lot of industries that are making the final push to online, whether it's retail, whether it's entertainment and conferencing. Maybe we don't need these big fancy offices anymore, and we can all work from home 2 days a week. And I'm not a full believer in complete remote working, but I think we can work a bit more remotely. Everyone have a bit more flexibility, and travel less, pollutes the world less. So I'm excited about the new opportunities that are being unlocked thanks to this horrible thing we have to go through.
Do you think TransferWise will downsize its footprint, its office footprint?
We don't know. We haven't had time to think about this yet. I think today everyone is busy with other things. But if you look around the world, I mean, okay, let's talk about TransferWise. I mean, we have 2,000 employees and we're mighty fine. Everybody's working from home. We're cracking on. We are launching new things. So it kind of makes you think: do we need these fancy offices? Like I am sure we will still have offices at TransferWise and elsewhere. But even if 10% of people spend, like 10% more time gets spent home instead of office, I think we can have a huge positive impact on the kind of the world climate. Also, maybe people will learn to make use of 1 day a week at home to be more productive, to do certain things, and yet we still meet in person for other things. Like I do believe that people need to meet in person, and there's a lot of chit chat and small talks that doesn't happen remotely, and some of it isn't needed, but some of it is needed. And motivating oneself to work from home is not so easy. I don't think it's quite for everyone, but I'm hopeful for positive changes.
By the way, I was asked by our conference organizer to point out that there is also a session going on over here somewhere on the left side. So any founders are welcome to also join that. But you'll stay here if you know it's good for you, because this is where the best conversation is happening. Taavet, so as you mentioned, you're at the office right now. Is that unusual for you? Are you working from home typically? Is anybody working from the TransferWise headquarters?
We have nobody's been in the office in London for a good while, so it is dead silent. All people globally are working from home, and we have a pretty specific culture where we put lots of value on people being able to think for themselves, and we give them lots of freedom. So being able to work flexibly, partially from home, like we didn't force people into the office, that was part of our DNA. So I think for us, it's been a relatively easy change. People moved home, like maybe a few things had to be adjusted, but overall we are cracking on fine, which I don't think is the case for everyone.
When did you start working from home? Or
Oof.
everybody?
I think it may be about 3 weeks-ish ago. It's kind of all blurring into one for me now. So,
how are you making use of your time during the quarantine? Picking up any new hobbies?
me personally, I have to say I'm managing to stay very healthy. So I have this little Aura ring for tracking sleep. My sleep stats are better than ever. I'm clocking more than 7 hours of sleep on average, which is good. I'm finding time to go running outside. Once a day, exercise outside is allowed. Go running outside or cycle indoors. Having 3 meals a day with family. I have 2 little kids is pretty amazing. So, it's are you allowed to be happy during these times? I'm enjoying it, but at the same time, I'm kind of starting to feel that we've had it for enough. So it would be great to see people, get a bit of change. Like, I don't think I have not traveled for so long ever in my life. It's been like a month and a half that I haven't been on an airplane now.
There's a lot of questions swirling now about the recovery, how long a recovery is going to take, whether we're entering a prolonged period of recession. What is your view on this? What are you thinking personally?
I have a pretty pessimistic view on this. I think we're gonna, like, the GDP loss we're projecting for Q2, and like that's a big banks are projecting, like we're talking about minus 30%, unemployment hitting 15% or higher. I think we're gonna go into something similar to a depression, possibly. I think the economy being hit worse than it was during the global financial crisis is not hard for me to believe in. So I think it's going to be a long and hard one for economy. So recovery won't be as quick as people are dreaming. Like, I don't think the lockdown will last that long, but I don't think we're anywhere close to getting back to life as we used to know it. Life as we used to know it, I can't see resuming until we have a vaccine, and 18 months is an optimistic case. And even after that, we're probably going to have some things which will never be the same. So in that sense, I am quite pessimistic. It's going to be a long one, and you need to be ready for it. But hopefully, we will emerge in some new form of life in between lockdown and life as we used to know it, and we have a bit more freedom back. And whether it's old people that have to stay home, or whether we will all walk around with some form of an immunity passport, I don't know, but it'll be something in between for a while to come.
That's a sobering view, that you think that we are going to enter a period of pretty harsh depression that'll last longer than people think. How has TransferWise managed its business? I know you've raised money not too long ago. Last year, you're valued at $3.5 billion at this point, last I checked. How much money do you guys have? Like, how's your runway?
TransferWise is in a very good position. So we have been profitable for the past 3 years. We had a fundraise last year, which was purely secondary. The company last raised money, I think it was 2017, and we've been profitable since that time. So we're only adding to the balance sheet, which I think is a fantastic position to be in right now. So in terms of runway, it's infinite and growing every month. If you look at how the business is performing, then that's also, so far, it's really good. March was our best month ever. I mean, we predicted that, based on our forecast from last year, but we actually beat our forecast. So there were more people joining TransferWise as new users than we expected, and we hit record volumes. So far, we're in a great position, and we're seeing people and businesses keep on using TransferWise. And also, we feel it's even more critical to have such basic services up and running and people knowing they can rely on this. So if anything, we're looking at this period and thinking, how can we invest throughout a recession and come out in the other end being even stronger. But that's a luxury if you have a proven business model which is profitable. And I know there are many companies out there that are very far from this.
That's really amazing. You said that March was your best month ever at a time when so many other businesses are having their absolute worst months ever. What is causing the continued growth for TransferWise during these dark times?
I mean, people, in a way, we're talking about a basic service. People still need to move money across borders. Maybe we had an extra boost in March from people sending more money back home. Typically businesses like TransferWise do benefit from increased volatility. So increased volatility in the market means more people and businesses are moving money around. So we don't know what the future will look like, but if you look at some other businesses which have fallen off a cliff, I don't think that's ever going to be the case for TransferWise. We're pretty optimistic, and as I said, we're thinking of how can we invest throughout the recession to come out stronger. Like, as a matter of fact, we're keeping on working, we're keeping on launching things. We just launched in UAE yesterday, and this is the first time an online remittance service has gone live in that part of the world. And we're pretty excited that, especially when people can't go to a branch, they can use it online. So keep on going for us.
And you aim to deal with Alipay not too long ago as well, opening up a huge market in China for you. Is that right?
Yep, that was last month. Also pretty. It's good to see that besides keeping things running, we can also keep on building and launching new things. Like, if you're talking about fintechs, and there are lots of different constituents, regulators, banks, etc. So getting these together and getting things launched at these times, I think, is an extra good achievement. And I'm super happy to see that the team is cracking on and delivering on these things.
How is April looking? Are you expecting to beat your records from March, or is the economic collapse having a negative effect that is now being felt in this month?
So far, it's looking good. Where we're going to end up, it's kind of early to say. Given that March was above and beyond expectations, should we expect to beat that? I don't know. We'll see. It's still the middle of the month, so if you give us a call in 2 weeks, we can tell you.
There's a lot of talk over here in the U.S. about getting stimulus check money to American citizens. I'm wondering whether you're seeing other sorts of initiatives like this around the world, and whether TransferWise is helping or aiding or playing any part in those efforts.
So, I mean, there are not exactly the same, but there are efforts around the world to give money to businesses and people being affected. I think that's typically more of a local issue, so that doesn't really impact TransferWise. I mean, if the US government wanted to hand out money to all of the 7 billion people around the world, we would be happy to connect them to everyone. But as long as it's US giving to US or UK giving to UK, there's not much that TransferWise can do to make it better. I think there are other people who are better suited for this. We are looking at are there specific efforts around the world where we can help certain aid movements, so payment for aid movements. Maybe we can help make these happen. So we're definitely looking at how can we help out during this crisis.
So one thing I've been wondering about, back after the 2008 financial crisis, there was a lot of outrage against banks. And a lot of TransferWise's marketing came out of that, and it was anti-bank. You guys were founded in 2010. You kind of rode this anti-bank sentiment globally. Do you think that banks are going to come out of this crisis on the upside, or whether they're going to, like the past crisis, have a lot of negativity directed toward them?
So it's a very good and very interesting question, and probably a long discussion we could have around it. Now, I think the last crisis was effectively caused by the greed of the bankers. As TransferWise or personally, I got nothing against banks. I have nothing against an honest banker, but I've tried really hard to find an honest banker. It's been really, really hard. So it really has to do with the behavior, and I think the behavior banks had before the global financial crisis was probably reason enough to cause all that attention towards them. I think things are better now. I think the banks are, there's no role that you can point to that they've played in causing any of this. So how are they going to come out of it? Like, I don't think there's going to be a sentiment issue as we had last time. How will they come out financially? It's probably too early to say. Like, it's pretty hard to think about all the second and third order consequences that will come. We're still mostly dealing with first order consequences. When people are dying in hospitals, that's where the attention will go from governments. But if you start thinking through, like, what's going to happen next, I mean, first of all, hospitals are going to be in a pretty bad situation. But then you start thinking about where does supply chain lead us to? What kind of geopolitical issues are we going to be seeing? Like, you don't know where the banks might be hurt because of certain credit decisions which will go wrong. So financially, how banks will come out, I don't know. I think sentiment-wise, I think it's a different world compared to the last crisis.
Are you still spending money on marketing, trying to get new customers, or are you tightening the belt financially?
So at TransferWise, we're, like, as I said, we're looking how can we invest throughout the crisis, and if you look at marketing channels around the world, what we're starting to see is that the cost of marketing is actually dropping. The effective prices you pay on Facebook are lower, so we're actually continuing to market, and we're pretty in that sense we're pretty happy with that. I think there's an old saying that the best fintech investment is Facebook or Google stock, because most money that fintech companies raise will go to ads on Facebook or Google. So hopefully there's less of the wasted money going there, and we can actually reach people who need TransferWise more effectively, which means we can give them a better service.
Now, in addition to your role at TransferWise, you also invest in startups and you advise founders. What are people asking you right now? What are your mentees seeking advice on, and what are you telling them?
It's overall quite like it really depends on the business and depends on how is the crisis impacting them. For companies that have just raised money and are more in the build stage, not much may have changed. Like, you do need to think about your runway. Like, if there are ways to extend your runway, you definitely want to do it. And yet, if you're a company which is operational today and has lost half the market share, then it's a much tougher thing. And it's a discussion about, so how do we adjust the business to increase our runway from 12 months to 24 months? Are there ways to tap into more funding sources today? Like, you don't want to be in a position where you're running out of money in 6 months today, not even 12. Like, if you can have money for 18, 24 months, it's probably a good position to be in. So it's just discussions about maybe helping to be the mirror for people and talk through the, hey, like, it's not going to be over anytime soon. So let's adjust now. And many companies need to make serious layoffs, and probably no one's ever felt bad about laying off more people versus having to do it second time. So just kind of helping people talk through this and be the harsh reality for them if they haven't read the news yet.
We've got just a minute left, I believe. So just a quick question or two for you. A lot of fintech companies are converging and offering very similar products lately. You've got a lot of competition, and a lot of challenger bank upstarts are moving into the field. How do you maintain TransferWise's unique identity when everybody's kind of crowding in?
To be honest, I don't see anyone doing what we're doing. So in that sense, I wouldn't want to be building a neobank because everyone and their dog is building a neobank. So it's very hard to differentiate. Like, okay, a different color card, but otherwise it's too often too similar. Yet no one is really investing in building the rails to move money internationally. So moving money globally turned out is really hard. So we've spent close to 10 years building the rails, and no one else is making an investment. So, as a matter of fact, we're happy to partner with any neobank outside and tell them, hey guys, we've solved this one thing really well. You should come and work with us on this, and the better ones have done it. If you look at Monzo, for example, Monzo comes with TransferWise built in. So, we're seeing that we're good at one thing, and we keep on doubling down on this, and no one else seems to be doing this. So, we don't want to tell them that we're onto something.
Well, great. Thank you, Taavet. When I interviewed Christo last year, your co-founder, he mentioned that the TransferWise offices have a sauna in them. Are you going to hop in there before you leave the office?
Damn it, I should have turned it on. That would have been awesome. I'll come back tomorrow. Thanks for the reminder.
I'm glad I could help. Thank you so much for your time and for sharing your insights during this time.
Awesome.
You and your family.
It was great.
And thanks everybody for tuning in. Stay tuned for some more great content. I believe my colleague Jen Viechner is going to be interviewing Zach Parrott at Plaid next. So thanks again, Taavet.